If we did this more often, maybe we were good at this. Okay, we're back.
Okay. And it's hard for me to, because I feel like I'm just like talking, 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 right? Like if this was in person, I think it would be more like give and take.
Yeah, there's another person on with us, and I don't see that she's joined back. But yeah, I agree. It'd be nicer to have a I mean, you're great though. I'm always like a sponge when you're talking. I'm just like, I'm glad we recorded it and people will benefit.
Yes.
But
Well, and that's why I tailored this presentation to the important questions to ask. Because I
yeah,
can talk to you about IDA, I can talk to you about all of those things. And every parent says to me when I'm in a meeting with them preparing, like
hmm
we prepare, they say to me, Jackie, you just have all the words. We don't know what to say.
yeah.
We don't know what to ask. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to give them all of my questions.
Here's a list of questions. That's great. Yeah,
Here
they'll
we go.
they'll be
So,
appreciated. So we'll put that on the other video, and then yeah, if you want to go back to kind of where you were, and I I mean
yes,
we can go kind of fast since there's just the three of us,
sure.
and
Yes, so I'll go fast. So the data standards is really looking at, yes, they're telling you your child can only do this 10% of the time or 90% of the time. But what they're missing is the point is what is the student's trend, right? Are they going up? Are they going down? Are they closing the gap? And what are we functionally doing to get there? So the subjective statements get really hard when you're in an IEP meeting. It's when people are like, oh no, I know they can do that. I've seen them do that. That's great. Can I have the data? Can you show me the data that they're doing that on a regular basis? And then is all your data tied to an IEP goal? Has everything been tried, right? Especially when we're talking about placement. Districts are really quick to move kids to a more restrictive placement. And now we just had that law pass. It's like HB 1017, where they can remove a child from the school district and like put them in like a separate building to teach them to behave. And I don't know how that's being implemented yet. We don't have information on that, but that law did pass. Um, and so that's why that question is important. Before you change my child's least restrictive environment in their placement, have all aids, resources, and trainings been exhausted? Um, and that's going to be kind of up to you to know, hey, here are some different strategies we could try. Because I always say good development, good implementation, good data gives you good access and good outcomes. IEP success doesn't just happen overnight. You have to have these three things: a team that works together, a team that can implement it in a functional way, and data to support your decisions. Then you're going to get access. Then you're going to get positive outcomes. So, the big thing that comes up all the time starting in middle school is accommodations versus modifications. And I find it more in middle school across the state than I do in high school, because we'll ask for something to be modified and they'll say, oh, we can't do that. And I'll say, yes, you can, because it's not going towards graduation credit yet. Once we're working towards graduation credit, then we have to worry about accommodations versus modifications. And here's the difference: an accommodation changes how the student learns. Same goal, same standard, equal access, right? So I put for like a dyslexia student, reading an audiobook instead of a paper text. Modifications change what they learn. We've adjusted the goal, we've changed the standard, we tailored expectations. And that's really important, because if we're in a meeting and we're suggesting something and they say, no, 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 that's a modification, you have to ask the team, how did that change the standard? How did giving them 2 extra days change the standard? How did making them solve every other problem change the standard? The learning standard is still the same, right? They're still learning the topic. It's not a different, it's not what they're learning, it's how they're learning it. Okay. Any questions about this?
No, I think that's usually a pretty big misunderstanding too.
It's a huge
Yeah.
Yeah,
misunderstanding.
and teachers too. Like I
Teachers too.
actually, I think that
Mhm.
those were good examples though. So if my daughter is sitting in an algebra class but doing just multiplication, fourth grade multiplication, the content has been modified.
Yeah,
If
that's a
she's in an
modification.
algebra class and she just has a shorter assignment, but she's still getting the standard scale. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
Mhm.
great way to explain it, I think.
And years ago when I first started, it was actually a Rapid City area school's assistant principal, and she's no longer with our CAS. She had such a clear understanding of this, and I give her credit every time I see her. And I got to the point where I just trusted her. I'd be like, is this an accommodation or a modification? And she'd laugh and she'd say, no, you're good. It's an accommodation. And now I feel like I've gotten to that point where I understand the difference. So, okay. So off of that, this is so important. At the high school level, if your child does not use their accommodations, they lose their accommodations. And many schools expect the child to initiate the accommodation. So they'll say, well, we didn't prompt your child. Your child has to be independent. They have to initiate that. They have to say to the teacher, hey, I get extra time on this assignment. Hey, I get to use speech to text. Okay, I don't know very many high schoolers that are really good at that,
Mm-mm.
especially freshmen and sophomores. So my question that I ask of the staff is, how are we documenting what accommodations are happening in every single class? Is the teacher keeping track of every time they ask for extra time, every time they ask for a break, every time they ask for a sensory item, every time they ask for speech to text, every time they ask for para support? Um, and then the other thing is, and I should put that in here, but like, why are we putting that responsibility on the child?
Mm.
We have to get past prompting versus independent. And some kids are not ready for independent. It's like throwing a child into a pool and saying, okay, swim. And they've never had a swimming lesson in their life. You don't want to do that. That's what that feels like to those kids when they have to initiate their own accommodations. Um, and then I talked about this already. If a teacher is doing something great that is working, how can we document it so that it can be replicated? And that's the question that gets you your accommodation that they're saying no to, that's best practices. Um, because we're going to have different teachers every year. People are going to move, people are going to change. Somebody's going to be new from a different district. They may not understand our best practices. We don't want to have that learning curve every year. You know how much loss of learning happens for a child on the spectrum because they're spending the first 2 months of school learning their new teacher? But if the teacher can consistently do the same strategies the great teacher did the year before, and it can be replicated, it closes that loss of learning time. Okay. And then my big one is, how do we embed missing skills in the classroom? Because I'm all about inclusion. I want those kids in the gen ed setting. Even if your daughter's doing a fourth grade math problem, I want her in that gen ed setting as much as possible to learn from mimicking, to learn from their peers, to watch social cues. So if your child is missing any skills, that's my question. How can we embed these in the classroom? And then how can we document them so it can be replicated next school year? Any questions? All right, next. So accommodations and data are the keys to progress. I cannot tell you how many phone calls I get where parents say they are not following my child's accommodations. They are not. I've asked them for extended time. I have asked them for speech to text, and they keep saying that my child has to ask for it on their own. If you can get your accommodation sorted, your child will have far more success. So I'm gonna escape out of this screen sharing. I'm gonna stop screen sharing for a minute. I'm gonna show you what I made for my daughter. I'm gonna go back into my Canva. Oh no, I have it in her. She's a type 1 diabetic, and I have it in her diabetes file. So I made her this little card um, that I give to every teacher. And I'll screen share that with you. Um, let me go back in. Screen share. Sorry, I know I'm wasting time. Chrome tab, window. There it is. Now, she's a type 1 diabetic, but this is what I do for her. I put her picture in the corner. Are you seeing that?
Yep.
Okay. And it talks about her high blood sugar and her low blood sugar and the treatment. Um, you could easily make one of these cards with your child's picture and a functional snapshot of their accommodations. So you could easily say, needs a break, gets overwhelmed when there's too many words on a page. Show them only half the page. Needs their sensory items anytime there's loud noises. You could put that. I cannot tell you how many teachers have told me that was their favorite thing they have ever gotten. They were like, I keep it on my desk. I have her picture on there. I know who she is. And it has made our day so much better because now she doesn't have to ask for the accommodation. The teacher sees it. They'll walk over to her really quick and say, hey, we're about to start a test. Have you checked your blood sugar? Because she has accommodations for test taking. And she'll look down at her blood sugar and be like, nope, it's 250. And the teacher will say, you can't take tests when your blood sugar is above 250. So we got to get your blood sugar down. You can come take the test tomorrow because that's one of her accommodations. So I think that when we talk about that functional and that collaboration and that communication, classroom teachers are doing the best they can. There's so much. They have so many IEPs and so many 504 plans and so many students. If you can do one thing that gives them something practical, functional, easy that they can keep track of, it will make their day so much better. And then they'll know your child because they'll see the picture. The name will be on there. So they'll connect with the name. How you doing, buddy? Did you get that homework done last night? If it was too much for you, you let me know. I'll stay after school. I'll help you. Now we've got that relationship building because it's not so stressful of Emily's in my class and I don't know if her alarms are going to go off. And what does she need for accommodation again? And does she need extra water? And does she have snacks? And we're about to take a test. And oh my gosh, am I supposed to check or does she check? Because that's what we do. I was a teacher. That's what we do. Right. And we want to be there for our kids. We want to help the kids. But sometimes we forget. Sometimes we get overloaded. Sometimes we have too much on our plate. And those little cards make a difference. And that's that snapshot, right? The other thing is your data collection. If you're seeing a child that has meltdowns every time you're doing English homework, share that data with the English teacher. Don't even wait for the IEP meeting. Reach out to the English teacher and say, here's my data. We've been doing 2 weeks. Every night during English, they're having a meltdown. Can you help me accommodate this homework assignment? Can you help me find out a different way? And then I'm going to collect 2 more weeks of data, and then we're going to have an IEP meeting. And we're going to say we did 2 weeks of meltdowns, 2 weeks of me and Miss Conway in math working on these new accommodations. And guess what? I have the data. It worked. She's not melting down anymore. So I want to get that in the IEP because we have proof. So you gotta stay engaged, right? And so just remember, does this plan, does this practice, does this intervention maintain my child's dignity? So what can you do as parents? You can make the card, you can collect data. Read every single document you get. You get something called a prior written notice. Almost every parent that comes into my office has never read the prior written notice. The prior written notice is every decision the school district made from the school's perspective, not from your perspective, right? You want to take notes at your IEP meeting so that you can send your notes to the school and document what happened in that meeting from your perspective. I have families that hire me just to come in and not even ask a question. I just take notes. That's all I do. And sometimes my notes are 7 pages to 10 pages long because I take such detailed notes. And it helps them because did we talk about that last year? I'm like, oh, go check your notes. I typed up those notes for you. Go check them. and they're usually in there. Provide your functional examples, and do not underestimate the power of private therapy, right? We have private BCBAs, we have private OTs. There is amazing, amazing woman at Thrive Therapy Collective that is doing executive function coaching. And I cannot tell you how many clients I've sent to her already. Whether it's autism, ADHD, dyslexia, I'm like, y'all need executive function help, all of you. So use those resources. They will be invaluable to giving you feedback to help your team. Okay. And always trust your gut. So the other thing is, when do you call me? Because everybody calls me when like there's anger and there's breakdown of trust and there's breakdown in communication. There's only so much I can do. So sometimes that's too late, right? I go in to try to be collaborative. I try to go in and be helpful. So you want to call me if you don't understand your test results and you want somebody to review them. You want to call me if you feel like the IEP is not personalized enough and you want some help. You want to call me if behavior is stagnant or increasing and you want some help there. Maybe you're nervous for your meeting and you want prep. Maybe you're not sure what to say. You're not sure how to write it. I do letter writing. Sometimes I have parents that just need emotional support, and they come into my office and they'll cry for an hour, and we'll talk about the burden and the sadness and almost like this unseen grief that IEP teams don't see that parents with disabilities carry. And how little things, like the littlest thing, my kiddo would get treats at band, and I'd be like, thanks for the Eileen cookies for the type 1 diabetic. Like little things that people don't understand that like hurts our heart, right? Call me for that and I'll talk to you. Okay. So if you need me, feel free, get a hold of Ruthie, get a hold of, a lot of people know who I am. My phone number is 605-431-3318. You can follow me on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram now. So you can follow me on Instagram, Inspire One Learning SD, Inspire Education SD. So look for me, and I'll take any questions anybody has right now. I went fast, Ruthie.
That's perfect. Like I said, well, I'll probably, well, depending, but I'll post, I'll put it on like my YouTube link, and then I'll post some of it and some screenshots and stuff if that's okay.
Okay, sure.
So yeah, I want everybody to have the information. I know it's hard for people to make time in their schedules, but.
And it's overwhelming being a parent of a child on the spectrum that has multiple needs. Maybe they're really smart in one area, maybe another area they're struggling, maybe they have emotional sensory in one area, another area they're not. So I feel like some of my most complex kiddos who I love to pieces are my kids on the spectrum, because they have such unique ways of thinking about things, and they always make me laugh and bring something to my attention that I'm like, I didn't think about it that way. Thank you.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Well, this has been great. Thanks for coming. I know last time I remember you and I sat at the library, and it was a nice visit too. I always pick up little gems, so I really appreciate you. And actually, your contact info is on our resource page as well, because you're our go-to. I'll have to have you maybe in the chat. You could even put real quick the Thrive, the one that
yeah, I'll do that right now.
that
Thrive Therapy Collective. There's 2 speech therapists. One is doing executive function, and one is doing like myofascial stuff for sleep. For kids that are on the spectrum.
So many people struggle with that.
Struggle with sleep, and she's doing like myofascial things with kids. And she said it's amazing how it helps with regulation, sleep, and breathing. And I've sent many clients there, and they've rave reviews. So
cool. Well, we're always sending people your way and appreciating all your expertise. It's good to see your face. And yeah, I'll have to send a parent email out, because now I know how long I'm going to be out, but I'm sure I'll see you more since I got another kiddo of yours. I'm so happy.
You've got him. You're still Seth's favorite teacher. He saw Emily's schedule and he was like, oh, thank goodness she got Mrs. Conway.
That's awesome. I saw he got all settled at college, and last weekend you got him there. That's good. He'll be great.
Yeah. The only thing that I was going to say, don't do a screenshot of Emily's emergency card. Don't put that
Oh, okay.
out. Like
No, I went.
this video can be out, but like just don't put a screenshot of that
Got it. That's too easy to,
out. Does that make sense?
yeah, privacy.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a great first day of
Yeah,
school
thank
tomorrow.
you. We didn't hear from Party W, but I hope you gathered some gems too. All right. Talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.